Hi, in this video I'm going to talk about how to create rubrics and use them in Blackboard. Rubrics, as you know, are a great way to grade projects as your participants turn them in. I loved using rubrics in the classroom because it made grading very straightforward, and I passed out the rubrics before giving an assignment so that my students understood what the expectations were. So what I'm going to do, where you create rubrics, is you go to your course tools. If you scroll down as an instructor under course management, go to your course tools, and then you'll continue to scroll and you'll see rubrics. And when you click on rubrics, you'll see I already have one here, but I can also create another rubric by simply clicking on create rubric. Now, to make this a little bit easier, what I have always done is created the rubric in Word or Rubistar or some other tool. So this is a rubric that I created that is in Word so that I can easily copy and paste. So what I'm going to do is shrink this down just a little bit here so that I can copy and paste. And again, this is has nothing to do with endorsements, but this is my PSA rubric. So I'm going to give it a title. I'm going to go back to that document. I can even put in my task description, which explains what this rubric is all about. You'll see I'm just copying and pasting. And then I get down to where I create the actual rubric itself. And so in my rubric, I'm going to open it back up just a little bit. You'll see that under my criteria, I'm looking at content, verbal skills, nonverbal skills, and there's set or technical skills here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 areas of content, and then I have it divided up into exemplary, accomplished, developing, not acceptable. And you can rename those columns whatever you want to rename them. So I know here, I only see in this example, it gives me 3 criteria and I need 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add another row, and I can give it a name. I'm going to go back to my document here, and I know that my first column was called content. So the down arrow beside formatting, I'm going to edit this and I'm going to call it content and save it. My second area I called verbal skills. So I can actually just copy this, go over to the down arrow. Remember, that's always where you're going to edit, paste, and save. My next area was called nonverbal skills. And again, drop down, edit, paste in what I want it to say or type in what I want it to say. Go back one more time, set technical. I'm going to edit this new row and save that. Now you'll notice that my weights here are no longer correct. I've got it set at 33% for everything. So what I'm going to do is look at my rubric and see what I scored everything. So my content, I actually want this to weigh in at 40% of their grade. I want their verbal skills to be 20% of their grade. Their nonverbal skills to be 20%. And these can all be even if you want them to be even, depending on what it is that you're creating. And then set technical, I also had at 20%. So now that I have my rows correct, I want to go over here and add in my criteria. And you'll notice again that, or add in my levels of achievement. We've got criteria in. I only have 3 levels of achievement, but I want to add another column. So I'm going to go up here and add a column, and it's added my new column to the end. And so again, I generated this criteria before I actually started creating a rubric, because for me, it's easier to take some rubrics that I already have and put them in. So I'm going to say I made my levels of achievement: exemplary, accomplished, developing, and not acceptable. Again, you can change these to anything you want to. So where it says, and I like to start with exemplary first. That's just me. I feel like seeing it on this end, I want them to strive for exemplary. So I always put it where they see it first. And I also post a copy of the rubric. They can open the rubric in Blackboard, but I also post a copy of the rubric inside the course as well for them to see a PDF copy of it. So I'm going to edit. So beside exemplary, I want to put accomplished. Going back to my rubric again, I want to put developing. Personally, in my online teaching endorsement, and again, I'm just copying and pasting, not accessible or acceptable, and putting it in row 4. And as I was saying, personally, in my online teaching endorsement class, we actually use the TEKS rubric. So we use 4, 3, 2, 1. And so that's important. You can use that as well. Let me scroll over here and save. I have the screen pretty big. And so now you can go in here and put what defines that level of achievement. And again, in my rubric that I created, I said for their content, it's going to be accurate, detailed, organized, have at least 5 facts, demonstrates that full understanding of the topic. And if they can do that, and again, I had bullet points in mind, so I'm going to take those out. Okay, this is what it takes to earn exemplary. And exemplary means you get all 40 points because 40% is the max you can get here. And then for accomplished, and again, these are just mine that I did, so you'll come up with your own criteria. And I'll show you some examples of ones in my online teaching endorsement, but I first wanted to show you how you actually can create one from scratch in here. This isn't going to be 50% because this can only add up. The total can only be 40. So if it's accomplished, I might give them 35 points. If they did a good job, it was mostly detailed, they may have missed a fact here or there, but overall they did pretty well. I might give them, 35 points there. I might give them 20 points here if it's developing, and if it's completely not acceptable, I may just put a 0 there, or you can give them like 5 points if they did something. Usually that's where I'm going to go in and grade that they did nothing. They're going to get 0 points. So again, let me go back to my rubric partially, and I am very specific on my rubric. So if you don't have 5 specific facts about what you're supposed to be doing this public service announcement project on in my class, then it's only partially accurate and you only get the 20%. And then you just fill it in the rest of the way. You'll fill in each of these areas. Again, the total weight is 20. So I'm going to say this is 20, this is 15, this is 10, this might be 0. So again, 20, 15, 10, 0, 20, 15, 10, 0. And imagine this is all completed. So I've submitted my rubric. Oh, excuse me. It does have to go to 100%. My apologies. I'm not starting over because we're 9 minutes in. So I need to change that. So they'll get 100% of the 40%. They'll get 85%, they'll get 50%, they'll get 0%. And so I usually just use the same across all. So I'm going to say 100, 85, 50, 100. So at this point, it is calculating 100% of the 20%, if that makes sense to you. But you do have to set up both of those. And this is just typically what I do to make it a little bit easier. The hard part's getting it set up, but once you've got it set up, you can use this same rubric in multiple assignments over time. So now I've got my rubric here, but I have to attach it to an assignment. So I'm going to go up into my course content, and I just imported one of my courses that I teach at the college level because I thought it would be easier to do, to show you, because I've got a lot of content in there. So they have a PSA that is due toward the end of the semester. So I'm going to go in here. This is where it gets turned in. This is the drop box for their PSA. So here's the actual PSA drop box where they upload their public service announcement. So to add the rubric to this assignment, what I'm going to do is click the drop down arrow and edit. So here is my assignment drop box, and you'll see I have up to 100 points, but I don't have a rubric yet because I just created it. So I'm going to select a rubric here. You can create one on the fly when you're in an assignment itself. That's up to you. For me personally, I like to go ahead and get it created in the rubrics and then select it. So here we are in selecting. This is my literacy PSA, submit. One of the things that I always like to change is in here it says show rubric to students. By default it says no. I like to change that to yes with rubric scores so they can see how they did in each specific area, and then submit. And when you get ready to grade someone, when they have turned theirs in, you'll go to your grade center, and again, you're not going to see a lot here because no one has turned anything in. But once that has been turned in, when you get ready to grade, you will have an option to use the rubric. I will make another video on grading using the rubric so that this one isn't too long. I hope that makes sense. Rewatch this if you need to watch it again, and I will show you some other examples of rubrics in an additional video.